Do you see my screen?
Yes.
We can check the PRs. And in March, what happened here? We are waiting for another review here.
I'm trying to add some last minute comments to this. I still think, oh no, this one I haven't. This one I haven't had a chance to look at.
Explain secure, keep verify. I think we are waiting for another review still. Waiting for review. Pending match. Waiting for review. Here one approval, one comment. We are waiting for the change here you asked for.
Yeah, I've been doing some more thinking about this. I feel like this, and I'm gonna write up some more after the meeting today. I feel like the change is kind of conflating. I think the first direction that the contributor appeared to have gone in was to just have an href be an alternative blob store. But then they've added this validation notion, which I think is right. But I think where I'd like to see this pivot to is not actually considering HTTP as a valid blob store per se, but having make it possible for blobs to have an upstream reference. So HTTP in this case, or possibly FTP or something. And when you set up your blob store, if you aren't able to have a durable blob store, like S3, for example, that one would just use a local blob store, and use that URI to fetch those elements whenever they're fetched, as if it were the first time they were being added. So I would imagine a workflow rather than the workflow we have now, which is to go find a blob and download it and put it in your blob store. Or sorry, put it in your blobs directory and then run sync blobs, that you could put the URL into the blob file and then say sync blobs, and it would either stick it in your local blob store, which would be sort of the equivalent to the behavior the contributor seems to be looking for, where there's no S3 bucket, and it would just stick it in the local directory on the wherever that repository was checked out. But if you happen to be if you happen to be using a real blob store, it would fetch the blob from upstream and then place it into the blob store and generate the symlinks and such the way that we sort of normally have the workflow. But it gives a place for that URI to exist in the blob declaration in the YAML. That's not just applicable to a use case where somebody wants to not have a blob store, but instead is useful for any blob that exists.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to gather those thoughts. I was going to work on this earlier this week, but I did not get a chance.
So still pending review, then you want to put more. Yep. Okay, moving then. So pending review. So we have had GitHub actions for link and test. I think this was waiting for the fixes here. Okay, still in wait state. So we have something IPv6 here, push bootloader. We had some questions last time, if I remember that correct.
I think
I think there were also still some issues in the unit test.
Yeah.
It was approved by 2 people. I don't think it should have been already. I was still working on adding another commit to actually fix these tests.
Yeah, seems
So
like
that
this
will
can
need a
go in
run.
as, yeah, seems like as soon as the tests get cleaned up or fixed, this can get merged.
Right.
Okay. Maybe I can.
I would not even comment on it. Just
If you want, you could put me as one of the assignees, if that is useful.
Is that possible?
yeah, you can assign someone.
I know, but depends. I think on the rights in the.
Oh, if he is even in there, yeah.
Okay. You are assigned.
Thank you.
So we had a comment here that it shouldn't be in place replacement, but more than addition. I think Ahmed was in vacation. Nothing happened here. Okay, still the same.
But he's back again today, right? Ahmed?
I don't know.
But he's not in the call, right?
No, he's not in the call. I don't know when he's coming back. So this is about the C group V2 addition, still pending review. We had some comments here, so.
Yeah, I had some back and forth with Wayne just about how to get the linter working. So I haven't heard anything back from that.
You are our new linting guru. You did so many linting fixes.
Yeah, not a lot of it got fixed, but I wanted to get some visibility into things because as I was poking around in some of the older repos, there were a bunch of places where we were dropping errors on the ground.
Yeah, I know.
Which
Which
maybe
never
is
gets picked
fine.
up.
But at least if there's a linter error or a little linter comment, we have a way of going back and finding those rather than waiting for a bug to find us.
Yeah. Okay, then still the same. We have what is here. Okay, still.
Nobody responded. So
We are waiting for change. Then it's waiting for change. This is interesting. issues. Porsche CPI issue with persistent disks 2 weeks ago.
I think this is possibly an internal person using the Docker CPI, which has some known issues with disk management, since it's just doing Docker bind mount stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably this person will figure things out with Ruben, since he kind of championed the use of Docker CPI internally for testing.
Yeah, I'm expecting some PRs from Ruben to see. He's promising.
Maybe assign this to Ruben.
This is in discussion at least. He's not here, no one complains, we can assign.
See,
You cannot complain if you're not here.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh, he can. He's pretty good at complaining even when he's not here.
We had the last meeting 5th of June. May 13. We don't have anything. There's Bosch integration, Docker image instead of this.
Oh, that's the for the bootloader.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is
That's
fast.
just something for in the. I need to pick up at some point.
Yeah.
CI
okay.
now works, so it's just like don't want to break it again.
On the issues, promotions, community stuff, we have quite a few things. So there are again some users reported as inactive, and I just created a PR. Usually we wait 2 weeks here and we merge this. We have new contributors, but this is more for Ruben and me. I'm still waiting for someone from UA side. We need another approval here for the 3.
I don't know that person.
So I also don't know the people. That's why I wait for the approval, so that I already tried to notify the people should be giving approvals from the area UA. I have also on the cost side something, but it is on the
Yeah, you wanted to change it. You wanted to change. You wanted to go to the US East. The US East, right? Region.
Yes, it looks like we are using a lot in Europe, and we could save like here. So we are generating 5,000 cost per month, and 4,500 something is generated in Europe. And in US, we have only around 650. And according to some price, average prices here on this site, we can save around.
Let me know. Let me know which region. It's all our deployments are done with the ops file, so we can just basically just change the region, and doesn't matter for us.
At the moment, we are using US Central 1 or US Central 2, US East 1, US West. So looking into that table here. Oh, the regions are sorted by price.
So Europe North 2 is the cheapest.
Yes, but somehow there's no information about Europe. I would say we can maybe take US East, US Central, or I don't know what is this Europe North 2.
Yeah, the problem is Iowa is a lot of the time full. That's the
Okay. Yeah, but we can try to go over the list here and.
But yeah, if Europe North 2 is something that we can, I don't know what it is, but I have no idea where it is, but we can easily go through there. And otherwise, I think we are. So we don't have the most expensive one probably because we are in Netherlands.
The most expensive we are using here, Europe West 2, for example, which is quite expensive. I also saw Europe West 4 and.
Yeah, I don't know why it's in those regions because the cheapest European region was at last 2 years ago was the Netherlands because it was a new data center and they always cheap as the price. So I put it in there, but we can easily change. So
yes, it will be great if we can try. Maybe we can try for 1 month. Maybe I don't know.
It doesn't matter. We can just choose the cheapest one. It would be nice if we could look out for what Europe North 2 is, because that's considerably cheaper.
Yeah. Maybe it's a home lab that Ruben runs.
Yeah. Somewhere in Greenland or something, yeah.
Or basement quote. What was this during Cloud Founder Day? A new basement. So which one you mentioned is Iowa is short on resources most of the time.
It is Sweden, European North 2.
Definitely Ruben's house.
Yeah, Sweden sounds maybe.
Stockholm. So
yeah, let's try Europe North.
Yeah, let's try it.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Maybe we can even do we scrape this and then every time we just pick the cheapest one to deploy.
Seems great. I mean, at least it would be an opportunity for us to pull this out as a variable in the deployments. So
yeah. So
possibly
if we
even a CRUD hub variable, is that something that would make sense?
Yeah, we could get it up from a CRUD hub variable.
Because then we could just set it and the next redeploy would pick it up.
Yeah.
So this will have a 30% difference if we go to Europe North 2 compared to Europe West 2.
No.
Yeah, okay, but I don't think we are using West 4.
No, West 2. So on the list, yeah, we don't use. Yeah, you are right. It's a mixture. Quite.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay.
Yes, we use all of them.
I have no idea who is. Okay. Yeah, we should just go through all our manifests which are deploying and see. Because I chose your West 4 like 3 years ago when I built that CI, and then I basically never looked at it again.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we should have like one variable where everything will be picked up which region we choose. Yeah, we should create an issue for this, and maybe we need to do this. Where can we do this best? Because the Bosch stem cell CI where we do the concourse, so the whole concourse should be moved to the North 2.
I think so. Just move the whole Bosch concourse deployment.
Yeah, the whole Bosch concourse deployment, and then but it's automated, so the next update would just go to the should go then to the new region. I hope. Yeah, that should be.
Issue where we can track this in, where it makes sense to have the issue.
Isn't there a deployment, concourse deployment repository?
No, it's I think it's the Bosch stem cell CI repo.
Bosch stem cells CI. Okay.
Okay, I can create there, and I will mention the region. Bosch stem cells here. And another point, I think, which makes sense. Maybe
No, it's not. That's only for the Bosch stem cell CI is only for the Linux for the stem cell builds. I don't know. Concourse should be. That's already a big one, so I have no idea where it is.
Probably on Joseph Palermo's hard drive somewhere.
I can have a sub issue here in this community issue for the move to a cheaper region. I think I can create here or not.
That seems great.
Yeah, I will notify you where it is checking. Yeah, I can create a sub issue here. And another thing I was looking into is maybe it will be also good to have tags on the resources to know which deployment or which environment works.
So for I just looked at it for bots testing. So all our stem cell bots testing, they have already a value for what the VMs actually are.
Yeah.
So we already do that there. Yeah, because I did it for myself because 2 years ago I thought, oh, this is not necessary anymore because I thought it was a batch test VM, but it was actually the director.
Okay, I will check then. I couldn't see in this ternary in the tool the text.
Yeah, so we only do that now for the stem cell bots testing. So for Noble and Jemmy, when we do IPv4 and the batch testing, they have like tags. But yeah, we should use more tags because it's easier to search and see what's what.
And it looks quite easy to add an opt file like this to have a global tag.
Yeah, it's really easy.
One question here, is this also working for create-env? Does the CLI?
If we do this with create-env, then yes, but you can add it with create-env. It's no problem. It works the same.
I mean, the CLI is then interpreting the global tag and adds the tag, or?
With Bosch create-env, you also can add ops files, so it's just adding an extra ops file.
Yeah.
That would get set. So you'd need to set the env in the vars file somewhere.
Yeah.
Passing to the interpolation.
Yeah, this is right. But I was thinking whether the CLI is passing this tag to the CPI when you do create env. Or is this CLI doesn't just gives the manifest to the CPI, and CPI then does the needful.
So I found the repo for the concourse. So
okay, I can
put it in the chat.
I opened the issue. Okay. Anyway, I think we can also have a separate issue for tagging and discuss there what makes sense to tag. Yeah,
so we basically need this in basically in the for every pipeline, this needs to be added, whichever is deploying something. So
yeah,
we need to go over all the. What would you have right now? 100 pipelines running. So I need to go all over them. Yeah, just an improvement. Don't think it will happen in the next month, but I slowly just add extra amps.
Yeah, it's not urgent hit this one because we can. It's just nice to have. Won't reduce any costs. Okay, then we can continue with IPv6 for Bosch releases. I think Alex, you are here because of that topic.
Yes, exactly. I also made it home in the meantime. I'm switching over the computer, but I can still start talking already. So you have seen some of the PRs that Felix and co are preparing to enable IPv6 support in the Bosch directory, agent, and so on. And what we would like to avoid is kind of late surprises, potentially, of things that we might have not considered, but that the Foundation Infrastructure Working Group would like to have for these PRs. And right now we're doing some Ruby spec tests for the functionality, basically extending what was there for IPv4 already to make sure that IP address distribution is correct, that all of the sequences are working correctly. There was this change to the database structure. Instead of storing the IP address as a long or as an integer, as to store it as the string representation of an IP address and so on. All of these small things, they're all tested. Now the question is, would you think of anything else that we critically need to have before those things can be merged, assuming that the functionality works, the tests are consistent and passing?
So you did know that we already had an IPv6. We already had IPv6 tests for when we test our stem cells for IPv4, but that was only for VMware.
Yeah,
vSphere stuff. So you reuse that, or you?
What I'm saying, or what the colleagues now did was actually, so one of the things Bosch does in manual networks is you give it a CIDR range, and Bosch can distribute IP addresses to newly created VMs based from that CIDR range, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was not available for IPv6. That was implemented now.
Okay.
We're also talking about dual stack always, so IPv4 and v6 at the same time.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, the logic of distributing things doesn't really change or anything, but we do need both IP address types on the interfaces. This is something that is added in the agent. I think a few things were already merged, also some things that were basically stopping multiple IP addresses for a subnet to be assigned to the same network interface. I think that one's merged already. But in general, would it be useful for you, the community, to have a kind of general overview of what we are trying to do on a higher level besides the descriptions in the PRs, or are the PRs already enough? And the coverage in the tests that we have, is that also proof enough that this stuff works consistently enough with each other? So that's maybe my question. Or is there anything that we should still do in addition, and ideally we should know sooner than later that we can prepare it and not realize in 2 weeks, oh yeah, we should also do this one other thing?
What you can do is create one issue and put all the PRs in there. So
yeah,
you
and
can
describe the kind of solution target. Yeah, okay.
For history purposes, that's nice to have.
Yeah, I think that would also be good for us as SAP internally to help communication of what this thing is actually doing, because right now there's also too few people that know exactly what is going on in these PRs.
And
that's a good point, yeah.
And I would like put more effort into test IPv6 for GCP, so we can put the community CI to on there as well.
Right. So this is something that we would want to do in a second phase. Our first goal, just because our requirement is on AWS, will be to actually do it on AWS. GCP can follow shortly after that, but shortly after that means in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So initially
I just
it will be
mentioned it
AWS only.
because then we can enable the we can enable the test again in our CI. So every time a new stem cell builds, so
Yes.
then we can iterate maybe easier.
Yeah. One other thing that we're gonna do with the deployment working group is to set up the CATS environment, or they set up an environment already, but we'll enable IPv6 or we'll make an IPv6 enabled environment there. That also then will deploy an IPv6 enabled Bosch, and on that an IPv6 enabled Diego, and so on, to run acceptance tests. But it's a good point that the Bosch CI should be able to run tests already as well, yeah, as soon as it is feasible. But again, it will not be in the first step, because first we are adapting the CPI for AWS. I mean, it's Bosch Director and so on, but the CPI needs to be adapted as well. And we'll go one by one, starting with AWS.
Okay.
Okay, so issue, that's a great idea. Basically, like a small micro ADR in slightly more detail, well, a technical plan document kind of thing that we put in the issue. Yeah, that's good.
We have the RFC, which explains the overall end-to-end.
It does, yes. But I think for Bosch, we might need to go in slightly more detail about some of the implementation details to help the reviewers see the overall concept of how things play together, where things are configured and how they play out. So if you put something in the cloud config, what ends up, say, on the Bosch agent, and how the Bosch agent then assigns things and or whatever it does, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Because that will hopefully also, once we are at the point that we can say, yes, we've tested this, it works, it's ready, that we can say, hey, you guys, please have a look. This is our description of things. I think this description might also be already done, at least in initial state, at kind of 95% of what is actually working for the next meeting next week already. Next week is what? Now there's a bank holiday in Germany. But there's still a meeting, right? On Thursday, the 19th?
Yeah, probably.
I'm on vacation. I won't be able to join next Thursday.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. But at minimum, I think we should have the issue, and then I can maybe add it into the notes. And even if our teams are not there, maybe you can already have a look. And if there's any questions or concerns or whatever, also just put comments, and then we can address those.
And you can also, if you need like a quick review or have a quick questions, you don't have to wait for the next meeting. You can just
no, I won't. I'm holding back because our PRs are not in a state yet that they are fully reviewable yet. Okay. But I definitely have that in the back of my mind, that I will more aggressively ping people once we actually have something that is really solid, that we know works.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if next week is a bank holiday for Germany and or most of Europe, maybe we should make a note of that, because if there's only one of us to show up, it doesn't make a lot of sense, I think, to have the meeting.
Right.
Yes.
Is there any point in moving the meeting?
Yeah, then skip it to next week.
Yeah.
To the week after.
I will ask then Ram to cancel the meeting. Okay, then next topic, Aram.
Yeah, there's work happening which will land as PRs probably in the next couple of weeks. We are doing some work to enable Bosch to add persistent disks after the VM's been brought up. The current proposal is for this to work as a local HTTP API on the agent, which would receive requests from a local process, and in our case, probably Diego. Those requests would be passed on to the director via a NATS message, and then that would allow the director to invoke the CPI to bind it, to attach a disk to the VM. And then after that, once the agent's mounted the disk, then it would pass that back to, say, Diego, or possibly in another universe. If somebody was using Kubo, there might be a CNI plugin or a CSI plugin, sorry, that could do this work. But the idea is to allow persistent disks to be attached to a VM arbitrarily, sort of after the VM boot life cycle has happened.
And this will be at the Bosch CLI. You'll be able to do this with the Bosch CLI, like that.
No, it'll be accessible to processes running on the VM. So if you imagine like a Kubernetes volume scheduler, or this work is being done now and as a way to add a feature to Diego to mount persistent disks for workloads on Cloud Foundry. So the Diego scheduler would, once it receives a workload that needs a persistent disk, it would make a call down to the agent, requesting a specific disk be mounted on a specific Diego cell. And the agent and the Bosch director will coordinate to make sure that that IaaS disk gets attached to the VM. And then once the disk is ready, the Diego volume subsystem would take over and mount it into the appropriate container on the VM.
Okay. Interesting. How this will behave when workloads are evacuated to update.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of work on the Diego side that will need to handle that, deal with different timeouts, handle retries. At least on vSphere, there's there are possibly some restrictions in certain cases as to how many disks can be attached. I think in other IaaSes as well, depending on the VM size. So that's nothing like Bosch, other than there being an error if the disk can't be attached. Bosch won't be managing any of that. It'll be up to the caller to attach the right disk to the right VM and wait for that to come up and have the appropriate timeouts and such.
And if the disk is attached, then is this in the Bosch state? So if Bosch recreates the deployment to the VM, is it added to the?
We don't know yet. I think probably. I imagine this will be tracked in the Bosch database, but I think it'll be tracked as either there's going to be some modification in the way that we track disks generally, or there'll be a distinct type of disk. Because right now a disk holds a reference to the instance, and that isn't something that would make sense in this context, or at least it would make sense for a disk to be only not to necessarily retain a reference to its instance, since it could be migrated, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have to. I think that's. I'm not actually doing much of the work on this. Maria, who's been a long time Bosch contributor, is doing most of the work on this, since she's actually been working on the Diego team for quite a while at Broadcom. So she's got a lot of Bosch experience, so she's kind of leading that, and I expect probably there'll be some PRs in the next week or so.
Yeah, most probably we need also an RFC if it's Bosch and Diego and.
Yeah. I mean, we probably won't have to worry too much about the Diego side of things, but just for the Bosch point, I think some of the things we talked about as being interesting or risky is sort of how to authenticate this endpoint. I think right now we'll probably use a socket, TCP over a socket, and control access that way. But I can imagine a world where we want to maybe make that more robust as an HTTP endpoint on a local listener. But we didn't see the need for that yet. The reason to go through the agent is that the agent already has a network path back to the director, and the director already has a network path to the IaaS control plane. So we aren't changing any of the security boundaries that a customer might expect. Like we wouldn't want the Diego service, the Diego volume service, for example, to talk directly to the IaaS or to run a copy of the CPI to do this work. Even though that's a possibility, it doesn't make any sense from a security and a control perspective. So the idea will be to add a NATS message that an agent can send, which will say something like, please mount this identified disk to this VM.
Usually we have static disk on our side. I was thinking, is it because of cost reduction to just mount when you need a disk? Or the disk, maybe the workloads require special disk and special size?
Yeah, I think the use case that we're targeting is customers that want persistent disk for Diego workloads, but they want those disks to be using an IaaS level disk and not a fuse SSH fuse file system like we currently use in Diego for volume services.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Are there any other topics you want to discuss? No, then we are done for today. And take care. See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.